Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Today. Random video. Not really random. I do have plans for this one. But I don't know where exactly the journey is going to take us yet, okay? So, my idea was that there are still things that I haven't yet talked about when it comes to playing, you know, the ELC. What else would it be? But yeah, there's still a lot of things that we can talk about. And I decided to make an extra video for that. So it should help a lot of people that are still struggling with DLC. So that's the plan, right? Other than that, last video got a lot of views again, which makes me very, very happy. Keep it up. Keep it coming. I appreciate the support of all of you guys. So with all of that being said, let's see what we're gonna start with. Hope you guys enjoy. The first thing that we are going to look at, which is also one of the most important things that we have to do when we want to play the ELC, can be found in the game's settings. Here we are looking to turn off the encounter and assault game modes. While both of these modes add variety to the game, they do so in ways that overall just sucks for the ELC, as they tend to create scenarios that we just don't want to deal with. So let me briefly go over why that is the case. And to start off with, I will address assault first, as this one's pretty easy to explain. For one, we get 10 minutes to deal as much damage as possible, and when we consider that the ELC needs all the time it can get to carry a battle, this absolutely sucks. I couldn't put into words how important those extra 5 minutes are. The tip of the iceberg, however, is when you get lucky enough to end up on the team that has to assault and capture the base. The principle for assault mode is that one team needs to defend the cap circle. This makes it so that the opposite team is forced to make moves first. Which is not what the ELC necessarily wants to do, as having to attack early on into the battle automatically means having to play with risks. In the optimal case, you want to survive to the late game and kite your enemies around. The more triangles and lights the enemy team has, the worse the assault game mode becomes, if you're forced to attack the base, making assault an unimaginably shit game mode for the ELC. So the encounter game mode is a little different. Now instead of having one attacking and one defending team, we have one cap circle for both teams, where the task is to either kill all opponents or take over the cap circle that is located somewhere in the center of the map. This mode retains the 15-minute battle timer, and the base takes longer to cap. Overall, this should work out for the ELC, so what's the issue? As previously mentioned, the cap circle here is located somewhere in the center, where both teams usually have to drive the same distance from the spawn in order to reach it. This makes it so that instead of having to traverse the entire length of the map, fighting through most of your team, the opponents usually only have to win over the flank with the base, in order to put cap pressure on you. This makes every map where the base is located on a flank that you don't want to play on exponentially worse. Let's look at Ruinberg for example, where the encounter base is situated in the city. If you lose the heavy brawl, you lose the game, because you simply cannot reset that base without dying. Same thing on Erlenberg. Lose the heavy brawl, lose the battle. Other examples include Malinovka, which due to the different spawn locations and the importance of the hill fight, become exponentially worse for the ELC. Lakeville, Mainz, Morovanka, and Siegfried Line are even more examples for maps that become worse, due to how the encounter base changes how the map is being played. So I would highly encourage all of you to turn off those game modes. So, let's play a little bit of a game, okay? Let's play a little bit of a game. I have the what replay site open. ELC obviously. Let's check how long we have to scroll in order to find the first encounter or assault battle, okay? Let's just check this. So, standard, 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 standard. All of them standard, okay, cool. First page. First page. More standard battles. And this is only from the current patch, right? More standard battles. Standard, 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 standard. Okay, cool. Nothing on the third page. Oh! Oh my god. And this map, where's the encounter base located? Is it over here? This is where the assault base is located. I believe that's also where the encounter base is located. So this kind of fine, you know. This map is fine on encounter. 3,200 assist on Siegfried line with the encounter base in the city. That's crazy, because Siegfried line is one of the worst offenders, okay. More standard. Okay, we're two on page 4. And I can't scroll anymore. So, out of 4 pages, 2 on encounter mode. Enough about that. Let's get into the next topic that I want to talk about.
Ja, du bist zu langsam. Oh, so richtig. Jawohl. Ja, ist richtig. Komm, hi.
On our Discord, it has become a monthly tradition to discuss the integrity of the ELC's HE shells. And although I have mentioned this topic a lot in the past, even creating 2 videos just about showcasing the capabilities of the ELC's HE, the fact that people are still questioning it makes me believe that I haven't done a good enough job at explaining the true value of it. So with this segment, I will once and for all put a nail into this coffin. How strong is the ELC's HE? How do you properly use it? And how much of it should you carry? To state the obvious upfront, yes, HE is absolutely something that I can only encourage everyone to abuse on this tank. 45mm of pen seems mediocre at first, but it can penetrate a surprisingly large amount of tanks. And every time someone even questions the viability of HE on the ELC, this is usually something that they don't know. So upfront, my first bit of advice: know your enemy, and if you don't know yet, learn about it. A lot of people will try to compensate a massive lack of knowledge with pure intuition. Your intuition will tell you that you can somehow, somewhere, pen the front of a tier 7 heavy if you dab the 2 key hard enough. But your intuition will also tell you that you can't pen the rear of the next opponent with HE, so you'd rather not risk it and just keep a PCR loaded. Because you don't know any better, so that's what you do. Because of how the average player plays with intuition alone, they will oftentimes just assume that once you unlock the next tier in a line of vehicles, the higher tier tank automatically gets better armor. Surely the Hellcat must have better armor than the T67. Surely the tier 7 Swedish Leo has better side armor than the tier 5 Stritzwagen. And surely you would never try to shoot HE at a wheeled medium. Even with just 45mm of pen, HE is extremely valuable on the ELC, due to how the tank's mobility and tendency to assassinate opponents makes it easy to get to the part of the armor on an opponent that you can pen. So let's watch a clip where the last remaining opponent is a tier 7 Leo that I can only reliably pen at the side and the rear with HE.
Zu den Heavys, Alter. So eine Drecksscheiße. Full life. Ja komm, geht da hinten bitte alle verrecken. Ah na toll, wenn ich jetzt sehe 1200, dann hat der Tiger ja gar nichts mehr.
I turn an opponent that would have needed 3 shots to kill into a 2-shot, saving me credits, time and hit points. And I did absolutely nothing special here. This wasn't magic. All it took was for my allied 1357 to distract him so that I could flank around and put the first HE shell in. Afterwards, it was a matter of me playing unpredictably to secure the shot into the Leo's flat side. I was so confident in my HE that I didn't even properly aim there. Notice how the Leo had 245 health remaining. If I had loaded APCR here, he would have been a 50-50 kill. But why would I risk low rolling APCR when I have the means to secure a guaranteed one shot? While we were just talking about player intuition, if it wasn't obvious up until this point, the in-game intuition crew skill is the key to making HE work the way it does. Let's assume the optimal case scenario where you have a crew that comes with Brothers in Arms as a 0 perk skill. In that case, you will train intuition after concealment, situational awareness and snapshot. And yes, intuition will absolutely take priority over recon and smooth ride. Once you stop to aim at an opponent, if you're confident that you can pen them with HE, you will proc intuition. The time it takes to swap the HE shell is about 4 to 5 seconds. That might seem long at first, but your shitty aim time will make it so by the time you are aimed in, you will be done reloading. Just like the ELC's 90mm, HE seemed to have so many drawbacks that it would not be worth using. But yet again, this tank proves that all isn't like it would seem on paper. HE is an absolute must-have to min-max the ELC, so you might as well get into it now. And if you still refuse to improve your gameplay because you just want to chill instead of turning the game into more work, the absolute least you can do is use HE on artillery for the potential one-shot. With a staggering ammo capacity of 44 shells and an incredibly shit base DPM of 1000, you will never run out of ammo in this tank, even if you were to reduce the amount of AP or APCR that you carry by 10 shells. So there's absolutely nothing speaking against the idea of carrying more HE. 8 HE shells is the absolute bare minimum that you will carry in this tank, because the better you get, the more you will find yourself making use of it. From securing low health kills, to one-shotting arties and two-shotting enemies with bad armor. HE is incredible. It can clutch late game carry situations, save you a ton of credits, improve your statistics, and most importantly, it's extremely satisfying and fun to use, given that you know how to use it. I know that I sounded a little harsh during this segment of the video, so let me reassure you that while everything I just said is absolutely what I believe in, what I still believe in the most is that we play video games for fun. So if improving at the game is fun to you, I hope that you can take something away from this video. However, if it isn't, all it comes down to is trying to learn at your own pace, without letting others ruin your experience. So as a disclaimer, my goal is absolutely not to shit on players that are simply not willing to put work into a game that was meant to be entertaining. So with that being said, let's get into the next topic. You always want to have word steps, and then vents is something that you can either drop for a rammer if you feel like it. Even gun laying drive at least does something, right? This at least does something. This at least does something. This also does something, I guess. You don't need to run exhaust, by the way. Okay, if you're an exhaust player, you don't have to fucking run this, bro. You have 44, anywhere from 44 at the bare minimum to 50, or let's say 40 to 50% camo rating. Bro, nothing is gonna outspot you. For real. That's not something that you have to worry about. Let's go over bounty first. Bounty rammer is good. Bounty stabilizer is really good. Bounty optics, vents, exhaust, I guess. I know, I'm not gonna recommend this. To be honest. I already nailed one coffin shot covering the use of HE, so I will take this opportunity to double down on some of my opinions related to equipment. And if there's one thing that a lot of players do, again with pure intuition, it's spotting. Relying entirely on the ELC's broken camo rating to carry them through every Proco battle without ever understanding the numbers that are in play. Going as far as to using completely unnecessary equipment such as low noise exhaust to make up for the lack of knowledge. So in this next segment, I will use my script to gather my thoughts, explaining why low noise exhaust is not only unnecessary, but also largely counterproductive. As well as trying my best to explain in as simple a fashion as possible how spotting with the ELC works, leaving out all the information that we just don't need. With that being said, let's get into it. First and foremost, there's obviously a formula that players can use to calculate spotting range. However, calculating on the fly during battle isn't exactly optimal, nor is it necessary. What we are going to do instead is simply use an already created calculator provided by the community that you can easily access via iuxin's Discord. It is an amazing tool that will help me getting my points across. In order to understand how the numbers translate into the game, we are going to be analyzing some Proco situations. But first things first, some absolute basic knowledge. Currently in the game there are 4 stages of bushes. No bush is the equivalent to sitting on the open field, 25% bushes are trees and shrubs with no leaves that give you an extra 25% camo rating, 50% bushes are ones with leaves as well as trees with foliage, and the 80% bush is what we call the double bush. This is the absolute most you will get as additional concealment, so even if you were to have 100 bushes between you and the enemy, you are still capping out at 80% extra concealment from foliage. The reason it caps out at 80% is simply for the reason that if you could get an extra 100% concealment from foliage, even a Death Star could sit behind a double bush and be completely invisible even after firing. The reason this elusive double bush is so vital is for one important fact that I want all of you guys to keep in mind. As long as you have a camo rating of 36% or higher, while being concealed by a double bush, even a tank with infinite view range won't spot you unless they get into proxy range. This means that with a light tank and a concealment value of 36% or higher, you can even move inside a double bush and never risk getting spotted outside of proxy. The second you drop from 36% camo rating, a tank with infinite view range will spot you outside of proxy. This is crucial knowledge to playing maps like Proco properly. But the real fun starts when you consider that this 36% camo rating is only true in case you have to play against CVS, which the ELC doesn't have to worry about because it's not a tier 6 tank fighting tier 8s. The reality is that even a tank with much lower camo rating is completely invisible to you, unless proxied, given that they are within a double bush. What all of this essentially boils down to is one simple fact. While your camo rating is godlike on tier 5, it is not the be-all end-all messiah that many players make it out to be. Neither is it foolproof, especially on an open map like Proco that mainly consists of double bushes. Proco is by far the trickiest map to master for light tanks, as it has a tendency to punish the lack of patience. What it comes down to is simply playing passively and waiting for the enemy light tanks to mess up. And it has always been that way. You can't play aggressively because the second you die without killing the opponent's light tanks, you lose. And most importantly, you can have all the camo rating in the world, if you lack knowledge or don't pay attention, you will mess up. Especially on maps like Proco. So let's take a look at our first example. Here my friend wants to counter the enemy light tank, only is the row of bushes on a 2-line the equivalent to a permanent double bush. So there's no way that you are going to safely spot the enemy light early unless they completely mess up. Instead my friend proxies him, at which point it's impossible to get out of that situation without dying. Now it's up to me to counter the enemy light tanks. The way I'm going to approach this situation is by positioning myself in a bush where the outside row of bushes on the 2-line is just outside of my proxy range. This makes it so that whenever the 1357 wants to drive down the 2-line to spot my team, he has to play extremely carefully. The second one of his tank's detection points is outside his second bush, he will get spotted. As the second that happens, he only gets 50% extra camo from foliage instead of 80%. Even if we are as generous as to consider that this guy was maxed on camo rating, with my 460 meter view range I will still spot him if he gets as close as 71 meter without the protection of a double bush. The AMX, being overconfident and getting away with his mistake once, will proceed to make the same mistake a second time, rendering him dead. Adding to this the fortunate situation of a 75mm enjoyer not grasping the knowledge of push, shooting his gun without properly using his foliage, and that's 2 light tanks countered with a simple position. So now let me just quickly summarize the main takeaway from these last couple of minutes. Without low noise exhaust, you will have anywhere from 42 to 47% camo, depending on our crew skills, the usage of food, and whether or not you are using vents as well as the type of vents you are using. Regardless, this amount of camo rating is what most of our light tank opposition can only ever reach if they are maxing out on camo rating. So either way, it's unlikely. And even then, most light tank players will try to spot without understanding how spotting works, leaving them prone to making mistakes that you can easily capitalize on, given that you know what positions to take. Low noise exhaust is an equipment unit that excels on a tank such as the ELC V90 or the Manticore, tanks that have to rely on their abilities to spot opponents in order to win battles, as well as tanks that have to worry about CVS on light tank competition. The Manticore has limited ammo capacity, meaning that it will never be able to carry battles by itself, and the ELC V90 has an absolutely hopeless dog water gun to begin with, meaning that you might as well set it up for purely spotting. Adding to this the fact that they can use tool setups with field mods, so realistically speaking, every high tier light tank can use a full spotting setup, depending on the map they get. That's where using low noise exhaust makes sense. The reason I can't recommend it for the ELC BIS is due to how the over-reliance on camo rating breeds bad habits, from spending too much time sitting in one position, passive scouting, to being too overconfident in your camo rating without understanding how spotting and optimal distance works. Low noise exhaust is seemingly made for players that A. lack knowledge and B. don't believe in their tank's ability to carry late game, or have simply never tried to carry late game. My tank has great camo rating, so I must spot. And what do I equip? An exhaust. Now the only thing that's missing is the 75mm. unscripted rage here. I really hope you guys enjoyed that last part. Just to add a little bit to it, I sound a little harsh again because, you know, no reason. Nah, it's for dramatic tension, obviously. But yeah, getting a few more points across regarding the topic of spotting, okay? So do whatever is fun to you, obviously. We already know about this. I can't repeat that often enough though, because I always feel like I'm prone to getting misunderstood. You want to get into the right mentality, okay? I see too many people seeing this tank and then thinking, wow, this is kinda doo-doo. And because it's kinda doo-doo, I don't think I can make this work, right? That's what a lot of people will end up thinking. They will be like, yeah, this gun is so trash, you can't do damage with this. And so they will do this, right? They will think to themselves, yeah, DPM matters, obviously, so this is what I'm gonna use. Adding to this, the fact that a lot of people will think, yeah, because good camo rating and shit gun, obviously this scout. And then they will start eating crayons. Yeah, so let me make one thing extra sure, okay? The absolute most important message from this video, okay? The way you get better at this game is understanding what your ultimate goal is. And your ultimate goal, if you want to get better, okay, if you're just here to enjoy it, do whatever, but if you just want to get better, right, your ultimate goal is understanding that you always play for damage. And once you start playing for damage and learning how to play for damage, you will start adopting the right habits. You will start to tend to play more in the way that the game is meant to be. Okay, the best thing that you can do is playing high tiers. Okay, so the way it worked for me was that first I played with Musevir, who is still arguably an ELC god. I learned a lot of things from him. And then I was like, okay, yeah, time to play high tier. And then I played a bunch of high tier. And from here on out, my teacher was Kaizu. Because Kaizu is also really good at explaining the thought processes that go into getting better at this game, right? Ultimately, what I learned is that if you play for damage, you will adopt the right kind of habits that you need to get better at this game, okay? That's just the way it is, man. So, ELC, you have a fantastic camo rating stat. But don't go about thinking that because the camo rating is awesome, you want to stack even more into it. What you need to do is fix your fucking gun, man. Because this gun is good. Why is this gun good? Because you have it on the ELC, which is a light tank platform with light tank camo rating, good mobility, and this platform makes this fucking gun work. Given that you use vertical stabilizer to improve your soft dispersion. That's not shown in the garage. So yeah, your soft dispersion is awful, you need to fix it. That's the gist of it. And you're gonna do that because you want to play for damage. And once you start playing for damage, GG, you're on the right track. Because that's how we improve, man. You improve by playing for damage. Because damage is everything in this game. It's the absolute lowest fundament. And everything else stacks on top of this. So for example, why do you spot in the ELC? Why do you spot? You spot because you don't want other people to spot your targets. Because once you start letting other people spot your targets, you will share your experience with them that you gain, right? So you only get like half of the damage if other people spot the targets for you. So this already makes this the best tank destroyer in the game. Because you can spot your own targets. And that means that you're not sharing the damage that you deal, right? That's why you spot. And that's it. And that's it, bro. And once other teammates start shooting your spots, you just get more experience from the damage that they do, right? So that's the way it is, man. And other than that, you're just gonna shoot your own spots so you don't share with other people in your team. Get into the right mindset. Don't let fucking statistics fool you, man. That you see in the garage. This tank is perfectly capable of doing damage. You know, it's the late game carry mentality. Okay? You can late game carry if you learn how to engage people. And how do you engage people? By shooting a gun. Right, everything else is just not engaging people. It's like refusing to engage people. That's, for example, why I'm currently doing an assist-only challenge. And the worst part about playing without engaging your enemies is that you are extremely map reliant. You're relying on good map rotation, which is just... It's going to fuck with you, man. Like every single time you don't get Mali or Proco for too long, it's absolutely ridiculous, man, to be honest. So yeah, how do you learn how to properly engage people? Playing high tier. And I'm not talking about light tanks. What you want to play is medium tanks and heavy tanks. That's what you want to play. Because with those tanks you can properly engage your enemies. You're kinda forced to play in situations where you're going to engage your opponents. Like at very medium to short ranges, right? So yeah, I could go on and on. I could absolutely dismantle the shit out of this man, to be honest. So my biased opinion, extremely cringe. But I gave my arguments, okay? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm not gonna ramble on for too long. If you did, you know what to do. Other than that, see ya, guys.